If a pandemic based on a virus that affects your body is enough to change the world, what do you think happens when there's a disease or a virus that's affecting people's minds? There's no vaccine for mental illness. What if the pandemic that we thought ended years ago was only just beginning? What is the #1 disease or illness in the world by far? Years ago, we saw a pandemic based on a physical sickness that was enough to change the world. But what would happen if the same level of sickness, or even worse, was to affect people's minds on a larger scale? How might it change the world? How might it make our lives look different? What will it do to our future generations? How big of an impact do you think a sickness of the mind can have once it turns into a pandemic? But what happens when that very virus isn't based in your body, it's stuck in your mind and you don't know it? If we change the conversation to an illness of the mind and many people are being affected and spreading it just as easily, how much more so would that pandemic cause trouble? What do you do when the sickness is of the mind and the pandemic is spreading like wildfire but nobody's even aware of it? You can't isolate and overcome mental illness. You can't take a vaccine and become mentally okay. What this all boils down to is the #1 disease in this world, the greatest illness that's affecting us all, is a disease of the mind. It's the mental illness. Whatever's going on between those two ears of yours is going to impact the world. And it's not just you. If everybody's mind is being touched, pressured, and influenced into the wrong direction, that becomes a pandemic of thought. It becomes a disease of the mind, and it impacts the culture in such a way that our lives are forever changed. Understanding this, the importance of taking care of your mental, well, that's what we got to talk about today. This is the infinite evolution. So it isn't heart disease or high blood pressure. It's often a thing that leads up to them. The small moments in which you had to make a decision, the choices in which you made that led you up into this moment are exactly what we want to focus on today. So often when it comes to modern medicine, they focus on treating whatever illness you have, not necessarily healing it. So today we want to talk about the idea of getting to the root of what many of our problems are. That is the mind. It's making sure that everything that's going on in your central processing system is as good as possible. So it's not the heart disease, but what came before. It's not the high blood pressure, but what led up to it. And as a person who's gone through various health and medical situations, much of it was caused by myself. Certainly genetics play a role. Certainly environment plays a factor. But more than anything else, it was the choices I made based on the way I was thinking. When your mind is corrupted, it becomes that much harder to focus on what's most important. Embracing the process, sharpening your skill set, and ultimately producing the results that you know you're capable of. This is the infinite evolution. Everything is connected, and it all begins with you and the way you're able to properly process and analyze information. Good or bad, useful or worthless, all of it is up to you and your processing center. But you must be intentional with the way you take care of it, value it, and protect it. You are the narrator of your life. You are the innovator of your future, and you are the greatest protector of your mind. But have you woken up and embraced the responsibility, or are you still running from the greatness that you know is within you? So today we want to talk about the idea of cherishing these beautiful gifts, not just with words, not just with thoughts, not even just with prayers. If you won't cherish these things through discipline, action, and consistency, who else will? Most people don't realize they're sick or that there's a problem going on until they see symptoms. Maybe it's a cough or an ache or a pain. Whatever the case, once you start to feel the symptoms, that's when you know for a fact that the illness is there. But what if there was a way to prevent it? The best way to overcome illness is to make sure it never comes. The best way to handle an accident is to make sure that it never even takes place. So today we must talk about the idea of being proactive with your mind and mental health, taking the small actions and steps that will compound and lead to far bigger results. You cannot take the actions if your mind isn't first protected, healthy, and ready to do its best. This is the infinite evolution. Why is this so important? Why do I talk so much about the importance of your mental? Because your mind controls everything. There isn't a single action you'll ever take that didn't first begin with the seed of a thought. But what are you planting in your garden, and how are you watering and nourishing yourself so that you grow and flourish into your best? What type of gardener of your mind have you chosen to become? If your mind is controlling all of your actions, it becomes that much more important that you prioritize its health and safety. Because if you won't, who else will? In life, it's up to you to take ownership of your actions. Nobody else is going to make you be accountable, and nobody else can force you to take responsibility for just how much control you have over your mental. But there's also a good chance they'll never actually tell you about it either, because they may not even know. If most people are suffering from a sickness they don't even know they have, how could they ever help you get through it? Because every single action begins first with the thought. Understanding and optimizing your mind is the best thing you can do if you want to see results. Whatever your body experiences, your mind is processing and making note of. What sort of data are you providing for your brain to keep track of? Good or bad, you get to choose largely what the experience experiences in your life look like and how your mind is shaped as a result. Your eyes and ears are doorways to your processing center. Whoever and whatever you allow to have access should be worthy, should be intentional, because it's such an important piece of who you are. If the things you watch and listen to are holding you back, maybe it's time to reevaluate. If the amount of time you spend watching, consuming, being thoughtless, not being intentional with the way your time is being spent isn't leading to the outcomes you want, it's time to make a change. But only if you choose to commit to it, and only if you choose to feed your brain the fuel that it needs in order to be right. If what you watch, or the fact that you watch so much of it, is holding you back by stealing your time, it might be time to reevaluate. So whether it's the nature of what you consume, or the time, discipline, character, and integrity that it steals from you by watching it, either way you need to be conscious of what's going on, because you may just have the sickness and not be aware of it. You have to be super intentional about what you watch and listen to. And if you have kids or family, you need to be that much more intentional about making sure that you monitor what they do as well, because young minds are impressionable. If grown adults have a hard time regulating what's good and bad information, how much more so do you think kids might struggle with it? Which goes beyond just what we put into our body, but it's the things that we listen to and watch as well. All of it is consumption. And even though consuming certain foods affect you in one way, they impact you on a far deeper level, because it's not just physical, it's mental. Your brain is seeing whatever you watch and is processing it. Your ears are becoming used to whatever you're listening to. But what if it's not so good for you? Your eyes are becoming accustomed to seeing the things that are not going to make you better. What type of food and fuels are you feeding your brain? Answering this question responsibly and honorably, well, this is the infinite evolution. To be intentional with the things you watch and listen to also includes people. There are many people in this world who will love nothing more than to put a negative word in your ear, to plant a seed of doubt or just a little bit of division and throw you off of your game. Because once the seed is planted in your mind, it's really hard for it not to grow. When you plant a seed in fertile soil and water it, it has no choice but to grow. Well, in that same token, when you plant the seed of a thought inside of your mind, fertile soil, and you continue to water it, what do you think is going to happen? It's going to grow and build. The narrator, the innovator, the chief protector of your body, mind, and spirit, that would be you. Which is why you need to make sure that the seeds you plant are being done so with good intention, that you carefully tend to the garden of your mind, that you feed and nurture your mind with only the best, and watch the way you reap the benefits of the harvest that comes about as a result. This is the infinite evolution. So whether it's laziness, short temper, low faith, overeating, lack of drive, or discipline, all start inside of your mind, which is why it's so important to be intentional and protective over what you allow into it. Some people in this world have it on their hearts and mind to help others build and heal. Others may be apathetic or even intentional about doing harm to as many people as they can. The same way somebody who has a cold might not be trying to spread it to you, but they still do it anyway, sickness of the mind works in the same way. You may not be trying to make others negative, but if everything you say and do is negative, you bring others down, and that's exactly what you spread. The same way a person who's super sick physically might not be trying their hardest to keep others healthy. Maybe they have work, school, or responsibilities, and they don't want to miss them, even if it means sneezing or coughing or spreading just a little bit of their germs on somebody else. They're willing to do it for their own selfish reasons. They're willing to take the risk if it'll lead to the outcome for them. Well, life works the same way. How many people are willing to put out negativity if it means making them a few extra bucks? How many people in this world are willing to spread lies and hate if it means to a little bit more money? How many people are willing to do the worst things on earth for just a little bit more fame or a couple more pennies in their bank account? This is much of what we're dealing with. And if we can't be honest about recognizing what's taking place, there's a really good chance you fall right into the trap they set. Don't let it be you. The same way people who are sick might just spread you what they got, not necessarily intentionally, but because they got to do what they got to do. The same thing works with negativity and those who would love to spread division in mass. Well, thankfully, much like doctors, surgeons, and other healers, we have people in this earth who are here to do the complete opposite. People who are just like you. The people who have it in their heart to spread love, light, and positivity in a world that so desperately needs it. This is the infinite evolution. People who are capable of applying immense pressure for good. Many people are naturally drawn to it, others wake up later in life. But whatever side you fall on, it's never too late to wake up and start making an impact. Unfortunately, much like the nursing and medical professions, there is a great shortage of people who think like this, and we need to multiply. We can spread the good word, we can help others understand just how powerful they are, and the light will spread in a way that we didn't even know was possible. Much like the nursing and medical profession, there is a massive shortage of people who think like like this, who move like this, and who are taking the actions that will lead to the world that we so desperately need. When your body goes through something, your mind tends to remember it. Think about the person who got into a car accident. The accident itself may only last a brief moment, but physically it may take much longer to heal, and mentally you may never get over it. I personally know several people who've gotten into car accidents and refuse to drive on the freeway now because they're too traumatized. And it makes perfect sense. When you go through something that literally changes your life, it makes you move different. The person who experiences abuse is often changed forever. Whether it's physical or mental, it literally rewires the way your brain works and turns it into something different. And what happens when the person who's abusing your body, mind, and spirit is you? When you choose not to prioritize your health by doing things that shave years and quality off of your life, you choose to abuse yourself. Don't let it be you. And your mind is keeping track of every single time you do it. You know what you've been consuming and putting into your body. You know if you've been eating healthy. You know if you haven't been active enough. You know if there are stones that you left unturned where you could have made an impact in your life but simply chose not to. And your mind is going to remember. Even if you're not consciously trying to, it's keeping a consistent record of every single thing you do. But what happens if you reverse it? What happens when every single day your eyes see and your ears hear the impact that you committing to yourself? Being disciplined, eating what's right, being active in the way you need to, no longer putting the things in your body that will destroy and tear it down. This is the infinite evolution. First, showing yourself the love through action that it will take in order to build and spread to others. How can you spread light if you don't even have it within you? On the other hand, if you've been filling your life up with darkness, negativity, and excuses, what do you think you're going to spread to the world? Your family, your kids, your community, all of them are being impacted by the things you're allowing into your mind. Don't let it be you. Be intentional, be disciplined, be consistent, and make sure that you protect with everything you have in you the most powerful asset you have, your mind. Fear is of the mind. Doubt starts in between your two ears. When there are situations that you go through that might make you question and doubt them, your brain has to do some processing. What are you telling it? How are you training and preparing it so that when you do experience failure, which is inevitable, you're that much more prepared to bounce back and win the next time? Losses are coming. Setbacks are inevitable. But if in the times in which you aren't experiencing them, you're constantly preparing, those losses and setbacks will only impact you but so much. There are people on this earth who've experienced massive tragedy, massive downfalls, and have been able to overcome it. Why? Fear is of the mind. Doubt starts in between your two ears. Laziness is only one digital decision away, but only if you choose it. Brain rot or focus, intentionality or excuses, discipline or destruction, and it's all up to you. This is the infinite evolution. Nobody should be controlling your life, future, and story more than the person who has to live it. You. Nothing compares to the power of your mind, especially when it's focused on your purpose, especially when it's committed to the discipline it'll take to build that momentum and fueled by faith that is unshakable and unwilling to compromise. So the best way to heal the world is by first starting with yourself and then moving on to your community. Whether it be your family, friends, close circle, whoever, start with you first and watch the way your light spreads. Every single action you take started with the seed that was planted inside of your mind. But what type of gardener and protector have you chosen to be? Nothing compares to the power of your mind, especially when it's focused on your purpose and committed to the discipline it'll take in order to build the momentum. Be very intentional with who you allow to have access to your eyes and ears, especially if it's a person who lacks discipline or faith, because what else could they spread to you but doubt and negativity? This is the infinite evolution. When a person lacks integrity and faith, but are constantly talking and spreading ideas, what type of seeds do you think they're planting? Goodness and positivity, or fear, negativity, and doubt? This is why you gotta be intentional with who you allow to have access. This is the infinite evolution. When a person lacks integrity and faith, but is constantly talking and spreading their ideas, what type of seeds do you think they're planting? Is it intentional light and goodness, or is it fear, negativity, doubt, and everything that makes us worse off as a people? This is why we have to have a counter. This is why the best of us must start with ourselves first, planting seeds of goodness and love and light so that we can eventually spread it to others. Some people intentionally try to bring you down. Others do it for money, fame, or attention. Whatever the case, there must be a balance. There must be a force of good who's planting seeds of goodness inside of every single heart they possibly can. When we talk about our heart, it's literally something beating inside of your chest that pumps blood through your body. But really, your heart is located inside of your mind. Your morals, your integrity, your discipline, discipline, your faith, your courage, everything starts up here, which is why you must be that much more intentional about protecting, nurturing, and making sure you heal the parts that need just that. This is the infinite evolution. So rise above it all by being disciplined in the small moments, by making sure that you're intentional with who and what you give access to your mind. Because now more than ever, the number of sources and people who wish to influence you one way or another are infinite. This is why you gotta be intentional about who you give access. Rise above it by being disciplined with the small things. The capacity to be exactly where your feet are, focused, disciplined, and dedicated to whatever cause you committed to is something that so few people master. It's rare. And the reason why it's so rare is because the seeds were never planted. This is why we gotta be intentional with planting seeds of goodness inside of our mind's garden by watering and nurturing and making sure that we heal the crops of our thinking. The harvest and the fruit that comes about as a result can feed, nourish, and heal the world for generations to come. This is the infinite evolution.